We are going to hear a beautiful talk of tending the garden, using the tools to tend your garden of your soul by Dr. Mark Mesh. He's been working on this for days. Years. He has developed this Recovery Works program at the Pueblo, and that's where he works as the psychologist there. And he's a really awesome dude. And I don't have all of his, where he went to school and all that, and I haven't memorized it yet. So let's hear it. Let's hear how we can tend the garden of your soul. You are on. Put it closer if you want to. There you go. Yeah.
Good to see everyone here. I'm going to start with the quote that initially I found inspirational, and as I thought about it more, I realized, oh, that's exactly the reason why I want to do a talk. So the quote goes like this. It's by Maya Angelou, right? Nothing against her? All right, but here's the quote. Nothing can dim the light that shines from within. Now, in a sense, if we look at that as an aspiration, as something that we strive for, that's wonderful. But if we look at it as something that it's not realistic, because we know that stress and life, adverse events, we know there are many things that can diminish the light that shines from within. And so, like Sean Murphy was saying when he was speaking, you know, it takes work. It takes work to cultivate the skills of meditation. It takes, last week we had a wonderful discussion about how each of us honors the divine on a daily basis. And again, that's all really great information. When we think about things that can diminish the light from within, in the mental health, behavioral health field, we often talk about trauma, and we talk about the capital T and the little t traumas. So I'm going to speak briefly about the capital T's, and then we're going to spend a lot of time today with some practices that are really beautiful for the little t's. When it comes to the big T's, most of what we have been doing in the field of behavioral health, mental health, for the past, I don't know, call it 40, 50 years, whatever, most of it has been as harmful, if not more harmful than good. And I say that having been on both sides of that, having been a real believer in one therapeutic modality after another that promised you know, if you go through this, you endure this, then whatever that trauma was, whether it be some kind of physical abuse, sexual abuse, whether it be anything that was something that hijacked your nervous system, which is what trauma does. The promise was always go through this, and on the other side, you're going to be a lot better. Now, that's only been true for a very small percentage of people with the treatments that we've had. And the reason for that is that we didn't really understand what trauma was, how it lived in the brain, how it showed up in the nervous system. And so we used what was has sarcastically been called the tea kettle theory of mental health, which is that we've got these emotions, these negative emotions, whether it be anger or helplessness or terror, and somehow they get trapped inside. And the job is to use one method or another to let it out. And somehow by purging oneself of these negative emotions, that you were forever free and ready and able to no longer carry them, almost like a backpack that you just take off. Now, that hasn't worked, because what happens is, as we re-experience a trauma, we re-experience it, and it gets stored back in the nervous system with as much intensity, maybe a little bit change here or there, but for the most part, it lives on. So I wanted to mention the good news is that there's a radically revolutionary new approach to working with trauma. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. I'm just letting you know that it's there, a little bit of detail, and we're going to move on. But if I sound evangelical, because I am, because I've literally spent many years of my own life working with this at a personal level, and then I've also spent years. Most of the people that I see are dealing with some trauma or traumas, and so to have something that is effective, non-invasive, and very effective. I said already. What do you think? So the name of this new protocol or approach is called RTM. RTM stands for Reconsolidation of Traumatic Memory. And I've got some resources on it that I will leave at the back table after I finish the talk today. One of them is an article that just came out 2 weeks ago from Gary Trudeau, who the creator of Doonesbury. Anyway, I guess he's been very involved in the field of helping veterans overcome trauma for decades, and he writes about this new approach and just how exciting it is, because it does offer a real path to helping that light shine again. So briefly, what it entails is not re-experiencing something, but learning that we actually have control over our memories. You see, here's where we were wrong. One of the ways we were wrong. It was this notion that somehow, as we go through the day, there's a little tape recorder or video playing that stores memory, and then at the end of the day, it's filed away somewhere. And we know that's not true. We know that memory is a recreated every time we remember something. We're not going back to some original video, original audio. We're actually recreating it. It's not stored in one area of the brain, it's stored throughout in many areas of the brain. So with this new approach, it's what's so amazing is that you actually learn how to remember the event in a different way. Doesn't mean you don't remember what happened, but you gain control over the memory itself. And you do that in all kinds of not all kinds, 3 or 4 very creative ways that actually teach you how to distance yourself from the memory so that you can actually remember it, talk about it, and with very minimal, if any, distress. It's incredible for people that have PTSD, but it's also very good for anyone that has what we call PTS, which is post-traumatic stress, even if it doesn't reach that threshold. So anytime if you remember something and it comes back fresh, like it's just happened, or then that's a sign that the amygdala has grabbed a hold of it and is holding on to it because it feels like it's important for your survival that you never forget this event, this moment. That's why it keeps it fresh. And that's why it keeps it very visceral in our bodies, so that when we think about it, our heart races, we get all the stress response. And again, this process, which is 3 to 4 sessions. The first session is longer because you're learning some of these skills for how to distance yourself from a memory. And then the second, third, and fourth are much quicker. I know I've been practicing this now for several months, it's a long time, but it's a very structured protocol, and the results have been absolutely amazing. Where people who have carried trauma for 40 years, 20 years, they'll come in the office, and the first time you say, "Tell me what happened," right? They just completely break down. There's lots of flooding, lots of affect. By the time we've gone through this protocol a few times, they're like, "Oh, this is getting boring." And that's when the things are really different. So again, I'll put the article by Gary Trudeau. I'll put a little bit of more information. And there's also there's a few practitioners of this method here in Taos. We all work together because we all went to the training at the same time. And they've all volunteered to be there for anyone that would like this support. Some have said, "Hey, I'll do it completely free," and some will say on a sliding scale, which is very little. But still, that in and of itself is a measure of how wonderful this is. If you get people that are working full time, that are willing to, in their spare time, do more of this because they believe in it so much and are so excited. So there we go. It really is exciting. All right. Now to the little T's. What if I were to tell you that there's something that is supports the nervous system, supports our physical well-being in such a way that it contributes towards the healing of virtually every major medical condition that we know, whether that be heart disease, whether it be high blood pressure, whether it be cancer, diabetes, chronic pain. Chronic pain is actually affecting somewhere between around 15 to 20% of adults right now. That's a huge number, right? So these chronic conditions, what we know is that this supports healing and is very, very effective in the treatment of, not necessarily as a standalone treatment always, but certainly as a component. And what if I were to say that the same thing is also wonderful for promoting vitality, well-being, and for helping that light shine from within? And what if I were to say that this being I'm talking about is actually here in the room with us now, and we're all surrounded by it, and it's actually within us, and it's actually being created within us and around us. So what I'm referring to is what's referred to as PEMF, which stands for pulsed electromagnetic, either field or frequency. People use that F, can be, they use both. But anyway, so PEMFs are invisible, but they're around us all the time, and they've been shown by over 10,000 studies to be a vital, important part of our health, and yet we don't hardly even know about it. And certainly don't really tap into it. That's what we're going to spend most of the day doing. All right, but let me go a little bit more on what they are first. So what that means is there's two major sources of PEMFs. One is the geomagnetic, which is the Earth itself is emitting a magnetic field all the time. And the other is comes from the ionosphere, and that the major source of magnetism in the air is actually lightning, and there's 7 million lightning strikes a day, 2,000 lightning storms happening all the time somewhere in the world. And just the other day, as we were watching a lightning storm, the person I was with was like, "Wow, wouldn't it be great if we could harness all that power?" Well, here's the good thing is we do, because all that power that you see that's lighting up the sky is actually creating magnetic fields. Those magnetic fields are pulsating all around us all the time. So when we think about magnetic field, there's a couple of things I want to introduce before we dive into a more personal kind of exploration. One is that magnetic fields are measured in terms of frequency. Frequency of any kind of wave is simply how often does it pass by a certain point at any given, in a certain point, either like waves of water, right? Obviously, the faster the wave, the more faster it comes by. Well, with PNS, we look at the frequencies. Most of the frequencies that I was referring to, that the Earth creates and are in the ionosphere, are in the 0 to 30 hertz range. And what's so cool, where I really realized, oh my God, this is something we did, was my training and my practice is primarily working with the brain, and the brain actually oscillates, fires between 0 and 30 times a second. It's not a coincidence. Really, it's hard to overestimate the importance of this reality, because our brains are literally firing in rhythm with the Earth and the sky's magnetic field. Here's what's even cooler, is that the Earth's magnetic field is roughly around 10 hertz. The sky is around 8. Guess what? Those frequencies, when our brain is firing between 8 and 10 times a second, we're in a pretty blissful state. It's a very relaxed state. We call it alpha. There are some things that temporarily increase that, but then they also take away your ability to naturally create that state. Those things I'm referring to are alcohol and marijuana. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's so great, it's so great." Now, the reality is that it does temporarily increase alpha. It increases those those rhythms that are very much in tune with the Earth. But they also decrease our ability to create that on our own. So that's a lot of what we refer to as addiction can be understood as these substances that hijack our natural relationship with the Mother Earth, and that's why we're so drawn to them. And yet, the downside is they have long-term exact opposite effects, right? All right, so I knew I was going to talk too much. A few more things, and then we're going to move on. So, how does this work? How does this actually impact the body? To really understand this thoroughly, you need to be a cellular biologist, because a lot of this actually happens at the cellular level. What we know is that the cell membrane has receptors, like little antennae, that are absorbing and connecting in with the magnetic field that's around us and that's within us. It uses that energy, converts it into the basic cellular functions, like getting rid of toxins, bringing good stuff in, One of the most established findings in this is that it actually changes the viscosity of blood. So when blood is exposed to PEMFs, it actually naturally gets, the cells are charged, so they actually repel each other. That enables the blood to be thinner. Thin blood is actually a very good thing in the sense when it's charged, because then it spirals as it goes through the veins and arteries. And blood circulation is one of the most fascinating things, because by the time when it leaves the heart till it comes back, it's actually circumnavigated the world twice. We think of it as like this heart just pushing stuff through. That's not the way it works at all. It's a spiral, and it really works well when it's energized, and that is really largely done through the electromagnetic frequencies that keep that charge. All right. Pain, it's been shown to be very effective in the treatment of pain, much more effective than opioids and other things that don't need to mention that all the harm that's done, right? So I'm going to stop talking now, and I'm going to guide us through a practice. Now, at one level, we can think of this as meditation, because it really is a form of meditation. If meditation is focused, relaxed state, then that's exactly what we're doing. At another level, we're literally tapping into the Earth's gifts to us in terms of the electromagnetic field, and we're using that to recharge ourselves at a cellular level. We're also using that to give our brain what it needs, which is peace of mind, a break from all this busyness, right? These are faster frequencies that most of us are like, God, my mind won't shut up, right? It won't turn off. One way to know is if it have a hard time turning off when you go to sleep at night, that's a sign that you're low in alpha, because alpha is the brainwave that carries us into sleep. So, all right, a few more things. What we know is that these PEMFs are created within the body as well, and that we emit this energy. There's been actually not as many studies as you'd think on what comes through our hands. So we're going to start there. And what we know from the studies that have been done is that the energy that's coming through our hands, the magnetic energy that's coming through our hands, mirrors the energy that we're absorbing from the earth. So it centers around 8 to 10 hertz, but it's sweeping up and down from 0 to 30. So we actually have within our hands the ability to recharge. So much of when we think about the earth and us and our relationship, we think of it in terms of metaphor. This is not metaphor. This is actually, it's not an analogy. It's more of an awareness that we are being charged by this field. Okay, so all right, here we go. So I kind of use a general formula of plugging in and then powering up, then tuning in and then tuning up. So when I do this, I always like to do it with my eyes closed, just because it's easier to really focus on those, what we call subtle energies. Feel free to open your eyes. I'm going to try to keep my eyes open while I'm doing this. It's going to be hard because it's such an instinct to close my eyes. So I may close my eyes sometimes. Anyway, that's basically going to be the formula. I'll walk us through this, and we'll go from there. So to start with, what I'd like to do is you want to be relatively straight with your back. Just Notice your presence here. Arrive into your body. Notice your feet on the floor, back against the chair. Take a few nice deep breaths. Now what I like to do is I like to put some of my antenna down towards the earth. So I put your hands down with your palms perpendicular, or parallel to the earth. Relax your arms in such a way that they kind of swing free. And then as you begin to this meditation, breathe in, draw in the energy from the earth, draw it in through your feet, draw it in through the base of your spine, draw it into your hands. See if you can feel that little bit of energy that comes in. One way that you often will feel it is your arms will begin to swing, almost like a little pendulum. As you begin to feel that energy moving into your body, allow it to spiral. You can kind of guide it with your imagination. Allow it to spiral up to your spine. Allow it to spiral up your legs, up your arms. Now we're going to power up by moving up. You put with your palms upward. What you'll notice is if you just begin to focus in on the energy from above, move your hands slightly. Very often what you'll notice is, my God, it's like a weight. If when you really tap into that magnetic field, you feel it. It just as you lift up. And it's always amazing to me. How did I not notice this before? Right? Well, you kind of lift it up, you can alternate back and forth. You're lifting up, and you may be feeling a push from below, and you push down from above. All right, so now we're powering up. Breathe that in, allow the energy to spiral. Now we're going to move our hands in closer. They're not touching, but they're fairly close together. And imagine an orb of light, imagine a flame. Imagine the heat of any kind or light. Very often what you'll begin to notice is a slight tingly sensation in your palms. Now begin to move your hands in different ways, little circles, like a little accordion back and forth. And hopefully what you'll notice is a very strong magnetic field. But you got to move it a little bit, play with it. Once you kind of feel that, it's like, oh my, wow. To me, I think this is the closest we come to a physical experience of soul. Because this is it. This is our life energy. This is our you can think of this soul, however you want to think of it, but it's very real, very strong, and it's oscillating again. Here's a cool thing. How do I even feel this? The way we feel this is because our body has something called magnetite that it actually produces. It's in our skin, in our brains, and it makes us aware of magnetic fields. It's literally like another sense that we have, right? So feel that, play with it. As we go through this process, what I encourage you to do is to really open up to your intuition and go with what comes to you. Hopefully you're feeling that. You can actually, once you begin to feel it, you can move your hands further apart, make little circles, make little accordion things. What you'll notice is you can still feel it when your hands are at a considerable distance. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually use this magnetic awareness. We're going to use this to tune in and tune up our energy system within our body. We're going to start by tuning in and tuning up each of our chakras, and then we'll go on to another step. So I'm going to start, when you're doing this, you want to put your hand out at a little bit of a distance and then bring it in until you feel a little bit of resistance. That's the magnetic field. So bring it in. Once you feel that resistance, stay right there or a little bit further in. You just feel that bounce, right? Now we're going to start at the base of our spine. And we're going to make little counterclockwise circles. Counterclockwise unwind. I swear when I do this, I feel like I'm just like air is going out, right? You make a little counterclockwise. If you're not feeling the magnetic field, slow down, reorient yourself so you get that awareness, and then move. You want to move with the magnetism. So I'm moving counterclockwise. Now I'm going to come back and go clockwise. Now, when it comes to working with the magnetic field, figure eights are often very important. So go ahead and spend a little bit of time making a figure eight. Another one that's used a lot is where you literally reach in with your hands. You make a little twisting sensation. You can do it with one or two hands, and then you pull out. Sometimes you'll feel nothing, and sometimes you'll feel a considerable clearing. It's very, very, very important part of most traditional healing practices is to reach in and then pull out. So I like to add that in because I know, and right, so now we're just spending some time here on the first chakra. And then play with it. You can make different movements. You can make movements kind of like stringy things like this. Then, but again, go with your intuition and notice how the different movements have different effects. Now we're going to move up just below your navel. Same thing, we're going to move in till you feel that field. Once you find it, we're going to do counterclockwise. We want to go clockwise. I do some figure eights. If your mind wanders, gently bring it back to the magnetic field. The saying I think of is lose your mind and come to your magnetism. So we're staying with that. Now we go ahead and do the pulling out. Now we're going to move up to the solar plexus, below your heart. And again, feel that magnetic field. It's counterclockwise circles. Clockwise circles. Figure eights. Pulling things in and out. Sometimes emotion will come, sometimes a song, sometimes a vision. Just allow that to happen without getting too busy, too in your mind. I'm going to come up around the heart. Same thing, I'm going to bring our hand out and bring it back in to feel that magnetic field on the heart. The heart, we know, is the strongest creator of magnetic field in our body. In fact, every cell in the body is listening to what the magnetic field of the heart. It's an information field. So we're going to actually be tapping into that now. Counterclockwise circles, clockwise, figure eights, reaching in, pulling out. Sometimes with the heart, I actually really like to do two hands and then really open. It's like a door opening, like a opening. It's amazing how when you do that, oftentimes it feels like your chest just expands, and there's a, anytime we open our heart, there may be pain, but there's always love. So just allow yourself to experience that. And we'll come up to the chakra on the throat, same thing, circles, counterclockwise, and clockwise, figure eights. Pulling things out. We're going to go up to the third eye. This area is so critical. So we want to, again, feel the magnetic field. Once you feel it, counterclockwise. Clockwise. Figure eights. Pulling things out. Circles. And I want to go up to the chakras. You start up above your head and come down until you feel that little bit of resistance. It's your magnetic field. Once you get there, same thing, counterclockwise. Clockwise. Figure eight. Pulling things out. Now with the head, I like to use both hands on both sides because this is the temporal lobes. This is where so much of our stress is kept. You can really reach into that deep inside that limbic system. By the way, most of the magnetite in the brain that just did a study a few years ago, the first time they actually analyzed brain tissue, and they found that most of this mineral that we create that's so sensitive to magnetic fields is actually in the brain stem. Brain stem is so much to do with the autonomic nervous system. We're going to spend some time here with figure eights, with circles. Play with it, move us according to your intuition, pull things out. Now let's go to the back of the head, do the same thing. All the cranial nerves are right back here. We want to spend some time. What we know is that our attitude has a lot to say with the experience of this kind of work. When we come in with a sense of compassion, curiosity, playfulness, just go through it all. Okay. Now we're going to do, we've kind of done, that's the tuning in, tuning up. Take a moment and just, very often as after doing this, what you'll feel is a certain tingle, a lightness in your body. And if you put your hands up or whatever you would do, you'll notice, wow, I'm even more aware of that magnetic field. It's even stronger now, right? So the next thing is just to enter into like a more of a flow. So we're moving the energy through our body. When we move the energy through the body, think in terms of moving down and moving up. Moving down tends to be more clearing, cleansing, moving up, more restorative, revitalizing. Again, so what you can do is you can start at the top of your head. And again, feeling that magnetic field, bring it down. Bring down through your arms. Sometimes you can just make even a very light motion, like your hands are feathers. Find what works for you. You're brushing down all over, back of the head, front. Very often as you do that, you'll feel a tingling sensation too as the energy begins to move. Okay. Now we're going to move upward. You can come right up the front, different ways. There's not a right or wrong here. Just allow yourself to experience it. Feeling that magnetic field and moving it. And what I like to do is almost like a serpentine motion kind of thing where you just kind of go up and down, right along through the center. This is the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is what controls so much of our digestion, respiration, heart rate, you name it. We can't give it too much time and attention. Okay. Now take a moment, take a nice deep breath. Now, there's no magic formula here. I'm just introducing you to how to increase your awareness of the magnetism and how to begin to play with it and to move it. So I'm curious, with our few minutes we have left, would anyone like to describe your experience as you joined in with your magnetism a little bit this morning? Anyone would like to share a few words of your experience? Yes.
I found myself jerking and twitching.
Jerking and twitching. I would think that would be a good thing. I think that's like your nervous system.
Would be a good thing.
Yes, I think your nervous system is resetting. Yeah. I think that would be a very good thing. Anyone else? Like one person said he felt himself jerking and twitching. Anyone else like to share what your experience was this morning? Yes.
My sister and I take a Tai Chi class on Saturday morning, and I declare I felt like I was doing the sitting Tai Chi movements on yesterday morning. It was beautiful.
Wonderful. So what they have found is that people who practice Tai Chi, practice meditation, practice some of these modalities, they actually are able to emit a magnetic field 10,000 times stronger than someone who hasn't been in these practices. It's a real affirmation that, hey, all these things are working together here, you know? So that's wonderful that you do that and that you experienced that this morning. Anyone else like to share what your experience was? Yes, in the back.
I felt a lot of energy, and my energy was rising. I kept yawning nonstop. That's the way, nowhere I meditate. I felt like crying.
She felt her energy moving, she felt her flying and started yawning. Yawning is one of those signs that things are getting reset. Absolutely. And I see yawns going on. Yes, Dave.
Question. I woke up this morning, and when I get out of bed, my muscles back through here, like my kidneys, I really feel sore and painful. Not severe pain, but enough that I have to move very slow. I'm afraid of. And they don't want to move. And if I have to bend over or do something, often my dog's there and he wants to go out, so I have to touch it. But the point is that as I've gotten older, the exercise that I do this Saturday really hurt. And so these muscles feeling, you think that before, I don't know, is there some way you would recommend? Because this really has an effect on me. I've used
So a couple of things to that. You're referring to what they call neuromuscular skeletal issues, and this PMS have been studied a lot in this area. So like a couple of things. One is, I mean, there are PMF devices that are relatively inexpensive that a person can get, and the research is, most of the research has been done on those devices, not just the use of hands. So using a device like that has been shown to have the positive effects that I mentioned. I just think it's so much fun to do with your hands too.
Yeah.
But
Hard on your back, Phil. It's harder on your back.
hard on your back. However, magnetic fields go through anything. There's only one substance known that blocks magnetic fields, and I forget the name of it. But it will go through tissue. It'll go through your body. So if you're working here, but you can also put one hand behind as you do it. But I would definitely spend time with that area and help with that. But again, or one of these, they have mats, all different things, different kind of devices. I'm not here to sell a device, but one thing to keep in mind in the world of magnetic PMF therapy, less is often more. So a lot of times people say, buy this because it's the most powerful. I have both systems. I have a very powerful one and one that's not nearly as powerful. The one that's not nearly as more effective. Again, there's so many different frequencies, so many different levels of intensity, but I would definitely recommend you to spend some time with that.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to share what your experience was this morning before we close? Ken.
Really don't want to shut it down. It's stable.
Well, in the meditator. Oh, good.
I thought that you using the machine pretty much. Or actually,
You've been using a PMF machine? Good.
for specific frequencies.
So do they have magnets in them?
Okay, good point. So magnetism, PMS are very different from what they call static magnets. Static magnet is what we think of as magnets, right? Very different. PMF is where that magnetic field is pulsating. So it's literally like alive, right? So that's what we get from the earth. And so when it comes to the therapies, they're recommended is anything, things that pulsate. Again, there's lots of different options out there, and good research on it. Anything else before we close? Anyone else want to share?
I'm just wondering, is this on the internet research or what?
Yes.
PMF is on there, and there's been some even very recent, some exciting studies. So yeah, it's there. It's like anything else. You're going to find some people that are selling stuff, some quacks, and some different abuses, but it's real and it's wonderful to know about. And thank you all for.
Can you recommend the name of the PMF you would advise us? We want to hear one.
Boy. I don't know the commercially like readily available. The one I got from my practice was very expensive and I was not happy with it, but it's supposedly you can do all kinds of magical things. But I really find this simpler better. So I would go with simple, and I would probably go with more of what they call the earth-based frequencies at 0 to 30 hertz. Well, a lot of times they call them earth mats. I think they're very simple, and I think it's unless you're like a doctor and you really want to try to figure out something for a particular condition, I would go for something more universal like that. But again, that's why I love working with the hands, because we know that the hands are emitting those frequencies, and we know that as we tune in and practice, that again, 10,000 times stronger. In fact, the equipment that they were using to measure was it was so strong that they weren't able to measure with the same machines that they were measuring from other people. So it's real, and we can be cultivated. And I think I'm over time. Yeah, one last thing.
And here in Taos, and she's selling those earth mats, and I can tell her phone number. If someone wants, I can say it out loud, and you can go to her place here in Taos and actually lay down and check if you like it or not before you purchase, you know. So if you want, just ask me and I will write her phone number and leave on the table.
Good idea.
Hey, absolutely, one last thing. As I was looking at this, I realized that there's actually, NIH is actually recognizing a program called Healing Touch, which I wasn't familiar with, but I want to learn more about it. That's why I'm mentioning it. It's actually certification that family members can get, that you can get, and it actually teaches how to use, what they call biomagnetics, how to use your body's magnetic field in the to help others. What's cool about it is that with that certification of Healing Touch, which is hospitals all over the country are having people come in and offer these treatments. Again, these are not as a standalone treatment, but it's to supplement what someone's getting. I know when I was at Holy Cross about 4 years ago, what I enjoyed the most, what I felt like it helped me the most, was a practitioner that came in and did a little bit of similar kind of thing with me, and it was like, oh man, this is so much better. So it's kind of cool to think that it's out there. I'd like to look more into it, but it's called Healing Touch.
Is that similar to Reiki or?
Reiki is it's all connected. It's all connected. Sorry about that. All right, I think I am done. Thank you all very much.
We're going to do a song together that Mark requested that we sing on page 43. 43, it's in the book. You'll know the song, the words are a little different. We got the whole world in our hands, we got the whole world in our hands, we got the whole world in our hands, we got the whole world in our hands. You, me brother, we got you, me brother, in our hands, we got you, me sister, in our hands, we got you, me brother. In our hands, we got the whole world in our hands, our souls and our bodies. We got our souls and our bodies. In our hands, we got our souls and our bodies. In our hands, we got our souls and our bodies. In our hands, we got the whole world in our hands. We got the whole world. In our hands, we got the whole wide world. In our hands, we got the whole world. In our hands, we got the whole world in our hands. Now we're going to sing our love song up there. Now there is love on earth and it has begun with me. Now there is love on earth, the love that was meant to be. With all our relations, loved ones all are we. Now I walk with my family in perfect harmony. Love has begun with me, and this is the moment now. With every breath I take, let this be my joy and song. To take each moment and live each moment in love eternally. Now there is love on earth, and it has begun with me. We are the light, the love, and the presence wherever we are. Love is, all is well. It is, it really is. Smells like really good food up there in the kitchen now. So stick around. Julie Tato,
Okay,
Julie Tato meditation next week.
okay, great.
Bye, Beverly. Bye, Sarah. Bye, Lucy. Bye, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Beverly. I can't wait till we can hang out.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
My Mark
Great
later.
son. I really like your son.
Thank you.
Everybody.